Well, folks, welcome to another episode and welcome to another multi-tool review here at the channel. You know, we've reviewed a lot of multi-tools over the years, and today we have the Super Tool 300 from Leatherman. Now, this has been around for a while. This is nothing new to the market, and this is kind of in their pretty staple bread and butter line, if you will, over there at Leatherman. You know, they've had this out on the market for quite a while. I was able to pick this up for a screaming deal at Walmart, about half off. They're just having a clearance for some reason. So I was able to pick up two of these for the price of one. We'll talk about the normal price point and what it normally runs, you know, on Amazon or where you normally pick them up, because I think that was just kind of like a short-term deal. But I was able to pick two of these up, and so we're going to have a really good chance today to not only walk you through all the tools, show you what this has to offer as a multi-tool, but also just kind of talk a little bit of how this multi-tool may fit into your systems. It really depends on who you are and what you're going to be using your multi-tool for, which multi-tool is going to be best for you. There's so many on the market, not only from Leatherman, but other companies out there. And, you know, regardless if you might be maybe, you know, a construction worker, you work with your hands a lot and you're using your Leatherman as kind of a backup to your kit, you know, so you want it to be super heavy duty and you don't really care about weight. Maybe, you know, you're a backpacker, bushcrafter, and, you know, you're going to be mostly be using your multi-tool out in the woods. Okay, how does this fit into the woods, and weight and size and capability in that sense, and wood processing, and do a lot of that type of stuff. Or maybe it's just EDC, you know, you're just carrying it around town and you just want a good backup tool. You know, that's going to go into the thought process of which multi-tool is best for you. So we'll talk about the Super Tool 300 and how that may fit into some of those categories, walk you through the whole plethora, and hopefully by the end of the video, you'll know whether or not this multi-tool is the right multi-tool for you, or with some of the other options I'll run in, there might be something else out there. Obviously, by the end of the video, hopefully you'll have a good understanding. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start looking at how this Super Tool 300 performs. All right, folks, let's go ahead and look at just a few of the basic specs here on the Super Tool. Now, it is USA made, which is always awesome to see USA made quality and USA made tools. This is made out of 420 high carbon and 154 CM, depending on what parts of the tool we're looking at. Most of it's 420, and then the teeth on the pliers are 154 CM. Now, the weight without the sheath, just the tool itself, on my scale is 10.1 ounces. With the nylon sheath, it is 11 ounces even. So that's the weight. So it's definitely a heavier, beefier tool for sure. And then what we're looking at in dimensions when it's all closed up like this, we're looking at 4.5 inches long. We are looking at 3/4 of an inch wide, and we're looking at an inch, 1.3 inches on the width from side to side. So those are just a few of the basic dimensions when we're looking at the Super Tool from Leatherman. All right, folks, let's go ahead and look at the locking mechanism on this multi-tool. Every single tool on this multi-tool has the locking feature, which is great, so the item's not going to collapse on you. And it's very similar to, think of a lock-back design basically on any pocket knife like a Buck or a Cold Steel. So this is the locking mechanism right there. You can see it's got some nice ribbing right there, jimping if you will, that I can push down. It's got a spring loaded in the sense that there's another piece of steel that's been cut out here to give it some resistance. You can see in there it flexing and the little tooth moving in and out. So basically how this works very simply is you would pull out your blade that you're ready to use. You can see there that it's flexing, the lock kicks into place. Now it's very solidly locked. I'm pushing down really hard on it. It's not collapsing and it's really locked into place. Then I would collapse this up and begin to use the tool. Then when I'm ready to, you know, disengage it, put the knife away or any of the other tools, I just push down, that kicks that tooth out, and I'm able to swing and disengage the locking mechanism and lock it back into place. All right, let's look at the Super Tool blade here. And like all the blades on this tool, from the handle to the tip is 3.2 inches, and it has an actual cutting edge of 3 inches. Now it's 420 high carbon steel, which is a good budget steel. It's not a super steel by any means. You will have to resharpen this rather frequently if this is your go-to knife, but it is very easy to get a razor edge back on this. Very easy to do that. It takes you less than 5 minutes and you got a shaving edge back on this 420. Now it has a hollow grind as well with that kind of drop point, almost clip point design. You know, there's no swedge on it, but that's kind of how it's, you know, perceived. Very sharp, and it's going to do a great job with all of your utility tasks. Cutting rope, going through cardboard, even doing some, you know, minor food prep things that you may have to do, open packaging, all that type of stuff. The blade is really designed well for those type of tasks and is going to excel in those type of things that you may be needing a multi-tool blade to do, and even wood processing. Because of the hollow grind and because of the very fine edge that you can get with the 420, it's very easy to do minor feather stick making. Again, you wouldn't want to be doing this for an extended period of time because of how blocky and clunky the handle is, because again, you're holding this big brick of steel in your hand, not a nice ergonomic handle, but it will get the job done enough for you to do some basic, feather stick making, a few notches if you had to, those type of things. So even in the woods, this will absolutely do the job that you may need a multi-tool to do for you. So great fine edge on the plain edge blade that they offer you with the Super Tool. The same is true on the wood saw. Leatherman does a great job with their wood saws. I've used them extensively on multiple multi-tools, and they really go through wood real fast. Again, 3.2 overall and 3 inches even on the actual teeth of the saw. And this is gonna get a lot of very small tasks done for you. If you're in a wood shop and you had to do some final little cutting here and there, it would be able to do that, cut through like inch-sized dowels or smaller, those type of things, and that size of wood is really where it's going to excel at, is about 1 inch. If you have really dense branches and you had to, and this is all you had for some reason, you could get the branches down, to either maintain a small fire or possibly make a kind of the branches for a small lean-to. It would take a lot of time and a long time, and you would sure hope that this isn't what you're using, but it could get that done, as well as other woods tasks that you may need to do out in a survival situation, making some notches. It'd be a lot easier to use this than the the knife edge that we just looked at, to make some notches for triggers and traps and those type of things. So very capable for the size of the saw on this Leatherman. All right, so let's go ahead and look here at the business and one of the major parts of the pliers. Now, these are the type of pliers that are nice and closed up. The whole multi-tool is closed up like that. Then you have to open them. I know there's a lot of different kind of flicking, different multi-tools out there, not only from Gerber, but also Leatherman. Those are fine. I prefer this. I know it takes 2 hands and there is some value to one-handed deployment, but this is just simpler in the sense of less moving parts. And I, in my mind, am more of, and this is from where I'm coming from when I look at my multi-tools, and particularly multi-tool of this size, is more of a survival slash bug out bag slash backpacking is kind of where I come into line with, particularly multi-tool of this size. This wouldn't be too big for EDC in my mind. We'll talk a little bit more throughout the video about that, but what we're looking at here is a really good larger needle nose setup. It's got some really good size there. It's got the really good 154 cm teeth that are replaceable, so if you ever damage those teeth while you're cutting through material and you kind of bite off more than you can chew, so to speak, it's not going to destroy the whole multi-tool. You can easily replace those and pick those up for a reasonable price to just replace the teeth instead of replacing the whole tool. But you got your teeth in there for bolts, all sorts of different things, obviously, that you'd put pliers through. This performs very well, and because it's a larger multi-tool, you're going to be able to go through thicker, larger gauge wire and material than you would on some of the smaller multi-tools out there, because of the more amount of pressure you're able to put on it, and just how it performs. You got the crimpers on the back as well, something to note there. So just got a lot of capabilities like you would know from a lot of other multi-tools out there, but again, you are going to get a lot of leverage on your things that you are breaking through as you use this. It is not spring loaded at all, so it's totally manual, but I think, again, I like that coming from a survivalist, if you will, outdoorsman's perspective. I'm looking for as few moving parts as possible to either get gunked up, jammed up, or broken, and this leaves really, it's kind of foolproof, AK-47, if you will, of multi-tools in the sense of its opening and closing, as well as the function of the pliers. All right, folks, I wanted to show you the screwdrivers on this Super Tool. And what we have here are 2 on each side. We got 2 very large flat heads. These are very, very big. You're going to be able to do a lot of different flat heads of different sizes, as well as light prying, I want to emphasize that, light prying, with these, paint cans, that type of thing. You could easily do with these 2 on the one side. Then on the other, we have a much finer flat head that you can see here. That is definitely going to get into more precision areas, and then a 3D Phillips head screwdriver. So those are the 4 setup. They work great. They're going to get the job done, and I'm really glad that they give you that 3D Phillips head. It's always better to have an actual Phillips head for a Phillips head screw versus trying to deal with a flathead trying to open one of those. I've always appreciated 3D Phillips heads, and so I'm really glad that has that as a feature with these 4 different screwdrivers. One of the other blades that we have here on the Super Tool is this safety knife serrated blade. So it has this really dull, you know, sheep's hoof kind of design, so you wouldn't hurt somebody if you were reaching into a car or something like that and having to cut nylon cord or rope or a seat belt. And it has these really good serrated you know, teeth that not only make it very easy to resharpen on most, you know, sharpening kits nowadays, but also just really slides through man-made material, nylon material very well, regardless if it's seatbelt or paracord. I mean, just flies right through it. It makes it very easy to cut those man-made materials. So it's nice to have that as an extra feature, particularly for those of you maybe first responders or people who just deal with a lot of cordage. Let's take a look here at the sheath real fast. Very basic nylon, what you would expect from Leatherman. You know, good Velcro right there. It's going to hold it really nice into place. It's got some bungee, you know, so it'll stretch a little bit, which is good. The one cool feature that I like is that there are these little sleeves with a little tab on either side so that you could get like a AAA powered flashlight or like a Sharpie, something like that in there, and I like that. So you could actually carry this on your belt with like one or two other items. Kind of makes this a little more modular, a little more you know, usable for extra items. I just like that little feature, and if you're not using that, it's very slim, tucked out of the way. Then you do have back here on the back, you got your nice belt loop that goes vertical, but then you also have these two loops right here that go horizontal. So you could ride this either way through most of your belts. The last thing to note is that the tool will fit in single mag, you know, nylon MOLLE compatible sheaths as well that you could pick up, you know, from like Maxpedition, Condor, you know, just some of those other companies that are out there, VanQuest, you know, and this would easily fit inside there if you want something that's more MOLLE compatible than what this has to offer. And I know Leatherman also offers a MOLLE compatible sheath that you could purchase to fit this multi-tool. Two other little features I want to show you here real quick is that it has a nice leather awl, so you could punch through nice leather belts and other leather material or just material in general that's pretty tough. Works great. I've used it not only on this one but also on other Leathermans that exist. They do a great job with their awls. And it also has this little loop here that you can run paracord or a carabiner through so that you could attach this different ways. If you didn't want to use the sheath, you have this little extra feature right here to be able to do other forms of lashing and mounting with this Leatherman. All right, two other features I want to take a look at here real fast is not only the file, which is going to be the same length as the blades that we've been looking at here today, and you know, you got the two different grits, so that definitely is going to give you not only wood's capability in the sense of filing down wood and rounding that off depending on what you may be doing. You know, if you're a carpenter and you need some access to that, but also, you know, heavier duty materials, steel and aluminum and those type of things. And then there are two different grits obviously on either side with, again, the locking mechanism. So that's going to give you a lot of capabilities with that file, which is really nice. And then on the other side, we got the can opener. You got to have the can opener, even though so many cans nowadays come with the pop top. You know, a lot of canned meats still don't offer that. So even though a can opener is becoming a little bit less of a need out in the world today, I think it's always an important piece of a good, you know, sturdy multi-tool that's going to give you that capability, particularly to get into like canned fish, canned tuna, you know, canned chicken, other canned meats like that, dog food, whatever, if you had to, you know, Mad Max style in it here, whatever the case may be, it's good to have that can opener as well. All right, let's talk value just real fast here on the Super Tool and kind of walk you through that. Now, I got a screaming deal. I don't know what the deal was with Walmart about a month ago. You know, they just decided to have a bunch of Leathermans on sale, and they had this at basically half off. I picked this up for $40, so I bought two of them. So basically price of one, you know, 2 for 1 is what I got. Normal price on Amazon for the black oxide version that I have right here is usually about $75, and you can look at right around $70 to $65 for the satin finished model. So, you know, not bad at all for all the different tools and size that you're getting. And, you know, when we talk about particularly the Leatherman rebar, you know, I refer to that a lot in my videos. You know, that's running right around the $50 mark. You're getting similar tools on the rebar that you would on this. It's almost a carbon copy, actually, when you really get down to it. There's very small differences except for size. This is just going to be a lot bigger and be able to handle a lot more work because it's a bigger multi-tool. You know, you're going to get better leverage on the cutting portion. You know, you're going to get longer blades to do more work. So So, you know, that's kind of your choice, and you're gonna have to decide which one's more important. We'll talk a little bit more, and I'll be running in the rebar here in just a moment. But yeah, so for that price point, you are getting a lot of bang for your buck, and that's very reasonable in comparison to other multi-tools of this size, weight, and tool selection out there on the market. Well, as this review draws nigh to a close, let's go ahead and wrap this up with just my final thoughts on the Super Tool and comparing it with my, for now over a year, staple multi-tool, the one that I go to for everything, the Leatherman rebar. Now the rebar is just a mini version of the Super Tool. It literally has every single tool that the Super Tool has. It's just on a slightly smaller scale. And just to kind of give you as close a size perspective as I can give you, very similar in size. Here are the differences though. This is going to be 6.5 ounces. This one is going to be just over 10 ounces. So we're looking at, you know, almost 4 ounces of difference. We're looking at a profile that's going to be slimmer as well in the Leatherman, but you are going to be getting a 3-inch cutting blades, and you're going to be getting 2.5-inch cutting blades on the rebar. So the rebar is obviously a little smaller, a little bit lighter. But for me, and it all comes down to application, with any tool, with any pack, gear, blade, gun, whatever that we review here, it all comes down to application and how you're going to use your tool. Now, there's nothing wrong with the Super Tool. It's tough, and it's a super tool for sure. And everything about it, I love it because it's just a big rebar, basically, is what it is. It's just a giant rebar. So if weight is not an issue, I think that the Super Tool is a great option and is going to give you a lot of capabilities. But me and who I am, I'm always counting my ounces because I'm always going out there and hiking, backpacking, camping. And if you're looking for a multi-tool for those purposes, I think the rebar gets it done, because honestly, I don't use the pliers very often. Obviously, the Super Tool is going to give you better leverage. They're bigger pliers, so they're going to get more work done for you than the rebar would. But the rebar gives me every tool that this does, but in a smaller, more compact package that's lightweight. So I can take up those 3 other ounces with just lightening up my, pack, or I can add that towards, that's half the weight of a Bajo Laplander saw. I mean, that's awesome, So, however it, pans out for you, I think for myself, if I'm picking a tool for the outdoors, I think I'm still going to stick with my Leatherman rebar for the time being. If you're not worried about the weight, and you're looking more for around the town, maybe you're in an urban environment or something like that, or around the home, and you're wanting, just a bigger, a slightly more capable tool, particularly with the pliers, as well as you just want that extra 1/2 inch of all the blade lengths and saw lengths and file lengths, well then the Super Tool would be the right tool for you in its own right, and for what it's designed for, as being this massive, multi-tool. I think that the Super Tool 300 is a great option for those of you out there looking for those bigger multi-tools. So, as always, thank you so much for checking out the channel. Hopefully this review's helped you out with your purchasing decisions. As always, check us out on all the relevant social media. Those links are in the description below to Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. That's a great way to communicate with me, talk to me, and see how things are progressing, and see what reviews are coming down the line. And as always, remember, subscribe, comment, like, share this video, and always remember to stay equipped, stay prepared. We'll see you out there.